My adventure began actually in the summer of 2018. For some strange reason, I decided to do a self exam. I don't normally do that, but when I did, I felt a couple of lumps in my breast, which was very unusual. I even asked my husband to check it out, and he gladly complied. But he determined also this was different. This was something that we had not felt before. So I called my doctor, and actually, my doctor was out of town, but they hurriedly got me in to see another physician, a female physician, who examined me. And then checking my records, the interesting thing was that she said, "When was the last time you had a mammogram?" And I said, "Oh, I'm sure I had one last year." She said, "Well, what we have on record is 2016." And I thought, you've got to be kidding. I always do it every year. Well, what had happened is I skipped a year. I skipped a year because I was very busy helping my husband. He had lots of doctor's appointments. My grandchildren needed my help. They had lots of doctor's appointments. And I think I just got confused and thinking I actually had carried through with my health plan, but I had not. So we determined that it was definitely hurriedly something I ought to take care of. And so they sent me, I went to the Smile Medical Imaging Center, and there we had an ultrasound and then followed by a biopsy, which determined that I did have malignant cells. And they diagnosed it at the time as mucinous carcinoma, which they said to me at the time was, a mild kind of cancer, whatever that means. That certainly didn't mean it to me. It meant that it needed to be taken care of. Even when I was in the clinic initially, and the physician doing the biopsy said, "Well, I don't know if it's malignant, but it doesn't look good. It has to come out." So I knew then I was going to have surgery. We then went forward with it as they examined. They determined that I was positive on the chart for estrogen and progesterone. Progesterone, which meant that the estrogen that I had been taking for years had finally caught up with me and caused this to happen. And as it was explained to me, she assured me that it was a low grade, it was a good kind, it could be handled, because the primary thing is they knew the cause. There are oftentimes cancers that are discovered that they don't know where it stems from. I had no history in my family, so obviously it had to come from someplace. And yes, it was from the estrogen that I had been taking since I was actually about 35 years old after I had a hysterectomy. Some gynecologists thought it was a good idea. My internist thought it was not a good idea, but it made me feel better, so I took the estrogen. But look what happened. I was referred by my physician to a surgeon who specializes in breast cancer. And there we talked about my treatment plan. She gave me the option of either a lumpectomy or a mastectomy. Now, I considered a mastectomy. I considered a mastectomy because really for cosmetic reasons. I thought if I'm going to go through this on the left breast, well, I may as well reduce both breasts and, take care of some things that would make me look better, overall. Well, my husband and my children said, "Absolutely not, Mom. You will not do that. You will not put yourself through that agony for, it was unnecessary." And so they convinced me, no, we're just going to go with the lumpectomy. And if later on you want to do something, fine. But no, we're not doing this. So I proceeded. I made that decision. That choice was mine. We talked about various treatment plans that I would have. Certainly, as the surgery was done, there would also be the removal of one of the lymph nodes, and that would determine if perhaps there was more cancer if it had spread to other lymph nodes. It was clear, and therefore there was no reason to go further, which again was a true blessing. At that point, we decided that the decision was that I would have radiation, that I did not need to have chemotherapy. I was grateful for that. Radiation was frightening enough. I was referred to a clinic for the radiation and went through 17 daily treatments, with the exception of weekends. I was there every day, driving out there. I want to say at this point how wonderful it is to have friends and family support you. My husband cannot drive, but I had friends who went with me just to go along to help me feel comforted by the fact that I was going to have to go through the radiation was real. The treatment itself was really nothing. I didn't feel anything. It was fine. It was the aftermath. After the 17 treatments or along the way, I began to have a lot of dryness and irritation. Now, they gave me a cream to use at that time, and that should have helped to take care of it, but it did not. I continued to feel irritation. For one thing, it was under my arm. It was right in this area on my left breast, and therefore, summer, perspiration, lots of irritation. It just continued to fester. So I had lots of trouble as a result of not so much the treatment itself, but the aftermath of that. My family and everybody comforted me, but I really want to give kudos to my dear friend, Sora Michelle Halyard. She was not my physician, but she told me if I needed help at any point in time, I'd just call her. And I said, okay, but I probably thought I wouldn't. But one Sunday, I was really upset because it didn't appear to be healing. It was not, I was having lots of irritation from the tape, from the medication, which was just giving me a hard time. So on that Sunday afternoon, I leaned on the shield, as we call it. I called her. She asked me to FaceTime her. I did. She said, no, it seems to be healing, but I think you might try another product and use that. It might be easier for you, and it's a game changer. It changed lots of things and it started to heal up without all the drama that I was going through at the time. So this is also the importance, as I see it, of family, friends, that network that we have out there. I was also told that this was something that I needed to take care of and to be careful about, and see that that it didn't go any further because it could cause a problem in and of itself. I want to tell you this: there is truly good news about it. I have been cancer-free for 2 years. Yay! Um, but I want to pay it forward. I want to make certain that anyone else who is given a diagnosis knows that there's help, and to actually take advantage of the help. There were sorors, there were friends that I didn't know they'd been very private about this, and they did not just make it known as I have been. I'm just one of those I call open public jabbermouths. I tell everybody. But some people don't prefer to have it that way. They keep it, but they called me because they knew that I would need that support and help. So I'm very grateful to them for that. Now, the lessons I've learned from this have actually been to help me understand that I'm stronger than I thought I was. I mean, I've always been a very outgoing, assertive person, thinking that I was strong, but I didn't want real challenge. But this was a summer of challenge. In 2 months' time, I went from June being diagnosed with a cancer, to a flood in my house, to my husband's medical condition escalating, to then I was given permission to go to Boulé, which I did. I returned home. On my return home, my luggage was lost with all my precious jewels and my computer. That was the point that I cried. I just crashed. I mean, it was like, Lord, what else? What else do you want me to deal with? And I cried and I prayed and said, Lord, you know, I need your help. I need to be stronger. I need to handle all these matters because truthfully, my husband cannot. So it's my responsibility to take care of these things. Well, he answered my prayer because I've learned to deal with each event on a daily basis as it comes to me, not to think of the whole. I always say this to people all the time. Don't try to eat the whole elephant, one bite at a time, please. Well, I learned how to do that, to back up and say, okay, I'll take care of this today. Tomorrow I'm taking care of something else. And my health had to be a major part of this. And so I'm grateful for that. Um, I also learned from a friend who called me the day before I went in for the surgery. She's a minister and also one of my sorors who lives out of state, called to pray with me. And it was the strongest prayer and just what I needed. And I thought, I'm ready, I'm ready. And then she said, you know, Soror LaVern, we fight like girls. And I understand now what that means. And so I use that term all the time. We fight like girls. I had my boxing gloves the other day, but that's truly the case. I can't stress to you enough the importance of a mammogram, and knowing your own body. Any changes that occur in your body ought to be addressed right away. Putting it off can cause you to have more severe problems and potentially be a fatal incident because you did not, you know, if we don't address it right away. So know your body, take care of your health, have those mammograms on an annual basis. I always also want to give kudos to CVBC. Um, that is an important organization. I referred people there, and one of the young women that well, she's actually a little bit older than I, but anyway, younger than I at the time, younger than my cancer diagnosis at the time, said to me she couldn't tell you how much help they had provided for her. Someone who did not know where to go, how she was going to pay for it, what she was going to do, and she found help there. So there are all kinds of resources out there, but we need to seek them out. And certainly we need to know when we need them and use those resources as they come to us. I hope that's been helpful to you. You know, if anyone who wants to call me or just talk about it, either because of a family member or yourself, I encourage you to do that because I'm open. I'm open to that discussion. And remember, we lean on the shield and we fight like girls.
Well, thank you so much, Soror LaVern, for sharing your story and your words of wisdom. You know, we do lean on each other,
Yes.
and it's important that we help each other with our health. And this being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, it's so important that each and every soror knows what to do, what to look for, what should she do if she thinks she has a problem with her breast or if she thinks everything is fine. One thing I want to encourage all of you to do is to look at the presentation that was put together by the Breast Cancer Subcommittee, Breast Cancer Awareness Subcommittee of DBO.
Right.
Several sorors worked really hard on that, and you will find information in there about when should you start screening with their mammograms, how frequently should you start screening, what's normal for breasts and what's not normal. And also it's a celebration, we call it a legacy of love, celebrating our survivors as well as those who've passed on.
Right. Yeah.
So one of the things that you touched on, Soror LaVern, is that you were surprised that you had a diagnosis because nobody in your family had had a diagnosis. And indeed, only about 5 to 10% of breast cancers, as we know it today, are inherited by a specific gene that's passed on through the family. So it means that the vast majority of people who have breast cancer do not have a family history. So I want to stress that. I want to stress that part of your success is that you jumped on your treatment. Yes, surgery and radiation were scary to you, I know, but you didn't let that deter you and you did what you needed to do. So I would say for anybody out there who may worry that they have a breast cancer, find something, have an abnormal mammogram, please go get help.
Right.
Please lean on the shield and call
Yes.
for LaVern and others that can help you walk in this path. And the last thing that I will encourage you to do is, if you ever find yourself with a diagnosis of breast cancer or know somebody that has it, this Coalition of Blacks Against Breast Cancer, or CBBC, is an organization that was formed about 10 years ago with the goal of providing support to breast cancer survivors of African descent, African Americans, people who look like us.
Mm-hmm.
We really want to educate the community about breast cancer. We want to provide support to breast cancer survivors and their family members and their supporters. So call on us at any time. We have a website, cbbcaz.org. We have a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, and we are here for the community, because we want to make sure that when someone's diagnosed with breast cancer, they survive, number one, and they thrive like Sora LaVern.
Yeah.
So thank you all so very much for watching this. And if you have any questions, we're both here.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Thank you for asking.